In this lesson, we're going to be setting up the DB config file. Now, this is the one that provides the connection to the database. Now, I've got my file open here, and I'm going to start with an opening PHP tag. Now I'm going to create 4 variables. The first of these is the database host. Now, the database host, you can call it anything you wish. And in my case, I'm on a local environment, so it's just going to be localhost. Now, that will work for the majority of connections. If you're online with a live server, your hosting provider should have provided details about that. But for 90% of them, it works as localhost. The next one is the database name. Now, I called my database Coding Academy. And obviously, you would have called yours something different. The next thing is the database username. So my username, I set up an account and I just called it Patrick. Again, if you're on a live environment, your hosting account details should have been provided to you. And the last thing is the database password. So db_password. And just for ease on this one, I just called it password. Obviously not very secure, and that's not what I would use on an online environment anyway. It's just for the sake of this tutorial. Now, the next thing I want to do is to try and connect to the database. So we're going to use a try catch block. So we're going to try and do something. And if that doesn't work, what I want to do then is to catch any errors. So I'm going to catch any errors in here. Now, to try the connection, well, it's going to be a PDO connection. So that is a class. I'm going to assign it to the variable DB. So that's going to hold my object. So I want to have a new PDO and in round brackets, finish with a semicolon. Now, in these round brackets, this is where I provide my arguments. Now, the first one is the string that will provide the connection. And the first part of that string is we're using a MySQL connection. So MySQL, the host, well, we know that host is the DB host. We had that variable from earlier. So it's DB host. The next thing is the database name. And again, from the variables above, that is db_name. So that's the first part, the first argument. The second argument I can pass in is the database username. And the third one is the database password. So db_password. Now, there are other arguments we could pass in, but we're keeping this fairly simple. So that's all we need to connect to the database. Now, obviously, when we do connect, it would be nice to have a little success message. So echo success. And again, that's just for the sake of testing this connection. Now, in terms of the errors, we want to catch any PDO exceptions and assign it to a variable. And it's common practice used to call it E. Now, underneath that, what we're going to do in here is going to echo out another little message. So if there is an error, we'll just echo out the error. And we're going to concatenate on what the actual message is. So it's E. We're going to operate on E, and we're going to get message and finish with a semicolon. Now, that's all saved. I will head over to my browser. I'll go into my server. There's my DB config. If it's set up correctly, then I should receive a success message. And there we have that success message. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to just grab that echo success and I'm going to remove it. That was only for testing purposes, and I don't want to leave that in to any live scripts. So hopefully that makes sense, and hopefully you have done that before. And the next step is where we're going to start populating the database. If you found this lesson useful, then remember to give a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel to be notified about future lessons. Details about all the available courses can be found in the description, or you can visit the website at coding.academy.